because this is the second lecture on Foundry Shop. In the last lecture, we have already covered the topics. Those are, you can see in the black color. Today we are going to cover the remaining headings that you can see: foundry tools, types of furnaces, and casting defects. So there are different kinds of foundry tools that we are going to see one by one. Here you can see some rough pictures. These are certain foundry tools, and foundry tools are used to prepare the mold. And after that, in the furnace, we actually prepare the molten metal, and that is finally poured into the mold cavity, and finally the cast product is produced. So this is what is done in the foundry shop. So to discuss about the foundry tool, let us see one by one all these different kinds of tools. So we'll start with this one, which is hand riddle. It is basically used to cleaning the sand, okay, to remove nails, shots, or metal pieces, splinter of wood may be there in the sand. So to clean the sand, basically, hand riddles are used. And here you can see how the sand is cleaned in the riddles. Okay, here you can see the mesh is there with the help of the wire mesh that is created in the riddle, and the distance between nearby points in the mesh, if that distance is say 4.75 millimeter, then the sieve size is 4.75 millimeter. Okay, so you can understand there are different grades of mesh depending upon the size which are required. And sometimes what is done, you can see the arrangement here, the larger mesh size, and gradually the mesh size is decreasing, and finally you can see the 4.75 millimeter is a fine mesh sieve which is used, and the whole thing is basically kept on a vibrator, and maybe some sand is poured at the top, and gradually it is passed through this, and finally the fine sand found at this particular bottom. Okay, so there are different techniques by which this can be done. Other than hand riddle, there are machine riddles also for the big uh, projects. This can be used. Okay, now coming to the next one, which is the shovel. Now shovel, you can see that the two parts, one part, the front part is the metallic one, another one is the wooden one. And the shovels are used to transfer sand from one place to another, that you can see here. And this is also used to mix the sand with the clay, and that is also, that means to prepare the green sand, the shovel is also used. Okay, now coming to the next one, which is the rammer. So there can be different kinds of rammer. Here for the small molds, you can see this kind of hand rammers, the pin type hand rammer which are used, or it can be very large size, or the machine rammers are also there in the industry. So it is used for striking the molding sand, compacting the sand around the pattern. So this is with the help of a rammer, you can see that the sand is basically compacting, the green sand is compacting, and the mold is prepared. Now next you can see this is the sprue pin, and the sprue pin actually used to create the sprue, and sprue is basically the passage through which the molten metal goes into the runner, and finally through the gates it goes to the mold cavity. Okay, to create that sprue, the sprue pins are required. So here you can see that these sprue pins are there, and after that what is done, these sprue pins are actually taken out, and it will leave a passage, and that particular passage or the cavity of the shape of this sprue pin is called the sprue. So to create the sprue, we use the sprue pin, or to create the riser, we use the riser pin. Okay. So this in this particular video, that there are two pins which are used. One is the sprue pin, another one is the riser pin. Okay, riser pin is basically used when the complete mold cavity is filled with the molten metal. Then the excess metal will gradually rise in the that cavity, that riser cavity. Okay, and the sprue pin, you can understand, it is used to pour the molten metal to create through the sprue. Okay, so and you see that how these are actually used. Here you can see this is another tool which is basically used to remove the excess sand from the cope part. You can see that excess sand can be removed smoothly from the surface, and this particular tool is called strike off bar. The strike off bar is actually strike off the excess amount of sand from the cope. So now you can see that another tool, which is basically the lifter, is also used here as a strike off bar. So after venting with the venting wire, you can see these are removed, and this left two holes. One is the riser hole, another one is the sprue. Okay, this is the passage. This is the passage where the molten metal is poured here, and if you observe carefully, this part is wide enough. This is what is called the pouring basin. Okay, and after that, this taper hole which is actually created with the help of this sprue pin, and this is what is called sprue. And after that, it goes to the this position, which is, you can call sprue well or whatever. And after that, it goes through this common passage which is called the runner. This common passage through which the molten metal flows is called runner. And finally, from the runner, there may be multiple gates through which it goes to the mold cavity. Okay, so these are called the gates. These are called the gates, and this common passage through which the molten metal flows is called runner. Okay, and here you see over the mold cavity, this is what is the riser. This is riser. And for to create this riser, again you need another pin. So another pin is the riser pin. So one is the sprue pin, another one is the riser pin. Okay, so riser pin creates this riser. So when the excess molten metal, the complete mold cavity is filled with the liquid metal, that will gradually rise, and from outside, from here, we will be able to observe, okay, now riser is filled up. That means the mold cavity is filled up with the molten metal. Okay, so riser, that is what is the purpose of providing riser. Is that why the pin is taper? Okay, why the pin is taper? So the first thing which is coming to your mind may be direct. If you give the molten metal, if the pin is not tapered like this, in that case what may happen, that the turbulence will be more and there will be chances of the air bubble formation. Okay, some of the air bubbles may form within the liquid metal, and that may create some kind of casting defect. Okay, so so if you make it tapered, then definitely the flow of the molten metal to the runner will be gradual. This is the first thing. Second thing, the important point that why it is made taper is to avoid the aspiration effect. What is aspiration effect? As you can see, if you make it like this, there is a chance that at this region the pressure will be very very small. So if the pressure is very very small, then at that time there is a chance that uh, the gases that will form in contact with the hot molten metal with the sand, it is possible that some of the gases may come from the mold side into the molten metal. Okay, so this is what is called the aspiration, and chances of aspiration will be more if you make it straight. If you make it gradual, then in that case the pressure is almost uniform. Okay, pressure variation will not be there along the length. Otherwise, if you make it straight, you will find that the low pressure region will be created, below atmospheric pressure will be created, and outside the gases which are entrapped maybe within the molding sand, those if the pressure is very low here and their pressure is the atmospheric pressure, then what will happen? That those gases will uh, come into this molten metal and mix with the molten metal. Okay, so this, to avoid this aspiration effect, basically we make it taper. So these are the two important points that you remember. Another thing, the third point that I should mention about the gating system is that you will find that when you are cutting the gates, at that time you will find that uh, gate is basically the passage passage through which the molten metal flows finally into the cavity, mold cavity. So in that case, you'll find that the inclination is like this. That means if this is the mold cavity, so the inclination is against the gravity, not in the direction of gravity, against the gravity. A small amount of adverse slope is used so that molten metal will not flow very easily into the uh, mold cavity directly, because initially it is poured from a very long, maybe through this long sprue. So there is a chance its velocity will be very high. So we want a gradual pouring. Okay, that is why this adverse angle is provided so that gradually it goes to the mold cavity. Okay, so these are the certain things you try to remember regarding the gating system, and these are basically the different uh, terms that you can see with respect to the gating system. Gating system means the passage through which finally molten metal goes into the uh, mold cavity. So the pouring basin, then sprue, then maybe the sprue well, you can see, and then the runner, then gates. So these are the different uh, portions of the, or the different parts of the gating system that you try to remember. Next, see, this is what is called travels. Travels are very common. We have seen travels in the masonry work, and that is used for finish flat surfaces and corners in the mold. As you can see here, the surfaces is flat with respect to the with the help of the travels. Okay. Next is the lifter. As you can see, that lifter is a finishing tool, repair the mold and finishing the molding sand. Okay, so for the finishing work, for repairing the mold cavity, these lifters are used. It is also used to remove the loose sands, maybe fall into the mold cavity when you are basically taking out the pattern. It is possible. So those kind of works can be done with the help of lifter. Here you can see that one gate is actually cut near the mold cavity, and with the help of this lifter, that particular gate is actually repairing, or final finishing is given with the help of this lifter here. Next, strike off bar. Already you have seen that how strike off bar works. It is a flat bar. It can be made of wood or iron to strike off the excess sand from the top of the box after ramming. Okay. Next, vent ware or the vent rod. This is a steel rod or ware with pointed edge at one end and handle or bent loop on the other end. As you can see, this is what is the vent ware. And after the use of the venting ware is to create the passage for the gases or the steam so that they can come out from the molding sand to the outside air. Okay, so after ramming and striking off the excess sand, it is used to make small holes called the vent in the sand mold to allow the exit of gases and steam during casting. So this is a very, very important. If we do not vent properly, do not create vent properly within the mold, there is a chance that the gases will not be able to escape out, and that will ultimately uh, create a lot of defects within the casting. And we'll see that what kind of defects actually happens because of this at the end of this lecture. Next is the slicks. You can see there are different shapes and sizes of slicks are there. Maybe the spoon size or some kind of a cutter kind of a thing. Maybe they are at the ends. Okay. So they are also recognized as a small double-ended mold finishing tool, and which are generally used for repairing, finishing the mold surfaces and their edges after withdrawal of the pattern. Okay, so here you can see with the help of these sleeks, in the top picture you can see with the help of this sleek, basically the pouring basin is created. Okay, so pouring basin, if you remember, a respectively large diameter at the entry of the sprue that is created with the help of this sleek. Or you can see that uh, as a gate cutter sleek is used. You can see that this is the mold cavity you can see, and the gate is cut with the help of this sleek tool, because the edges of the sleek tools are very sharp. Maybe those also can be used to create the gate along with the lifter and all these things you have seen earlier. Now swab, that it is a small hemp fiber brush. At the end some fiber brush is there, used for moisturing the edges of the sand mold which are in contact with the pattern surfaces before withdrawing the pattern. Okay, so just before withdrawing the pattern, it is required to moist the edges of the mold with the pattern so that the removal will be easy and it is not going to break the mold edges. Okay, so here you can see in this video so how the swab is used. So here you can see the moisture which is coming out from the swab tool, and this actually helps removing the pattern from the mold easily afterwards. So next is the gate cutter. So gate cutter is a small shaped piece of sheet metal commonly used to cut the runner or the feeding gate for connecting screw holes with the mold cavity. But slicks can also be used as a gate cutter, as you have seen here. Slicks can be used, or separate sheet metal gate cutters are also used. Okay. Bellows, this is actually used to give the uh, high velocity air jet to remove the sand from the surfaces where maybe directly using some tool or hand is not possible. So their bellows can be used. So as you can see the construction from the side, basically air is coming, then with the help of this hand is you are giving the force. So you have to give force like this continuously. Then what will happen, through this nozzle air actually flow. Okay, so this is how the bellows are used. You can see here that it is hand operated leather made device equipped with compressed air jet to blow or pump air when operated. So it is used to blow away the loose or unwanted sand from the surface of the mold cavity. Next you see the draw spike, and it is a tapered steel rod having a loop or a ring at its end. Ring means basically the thread at the ends, and a sharp point at other corner at the other end, and it may have a screw thread on the end to engage the metal pattern, and withdrawal from the mold. So as you can see in this picture, the draw spike can have either the screw threaded at the end. So in that case, what we do, similarly in the pattern, corresponding internal thread is also there. So what is done, with the help of this draw spike, you can attach with the pattern and then you can take it out gradually. Or maybe there is no screw thread is there, only the sharp edge like spike is there, and with the help of sub-striking tool we first insert it and then gradually we taken out the pattern from the mold cavity. See in this video, so here you see that the draw spike, here you see the draw spike is used to first insert it into the pattern and then by small striking it is taken out from the mold. So it is actually helping to draw the pattern from the mold. That is why the name is draw. And the spike comes from the fact that the other end is like spike, a sharp edge. Okay. Now coming to the molding box, as you know, there are cope part which is at the top and the drag part which is at the bottom, and this is how the molding box looks like. This is also called the molding flask. Depending upon the complicated pattern, sometimes maybe the more than two boxes, like three boxes can be used. In that cases, the intermediate molding flask is called the chick. As you can see here, the bottom one is always the drag and the top one is the cope, the middle one is the chick. Okay, so next is crucible. Crucible is basically this kind of a thing. You can see this kind of a pot which is made of generally ceramic material, and within that we keep the scrap of the metal that is to be melted, which is called the charge. Okay, charge means the scrap of the metals which we want to melt and finally poured into the cavity. Okay, so scrap or the charge is kept inside the crucible, and then in the furnace this crucible is kept and ultimately it will melt inside the crucible. And then with the help of crucible tongue, as you can see there are different kinds of tongues, internal, external, this kind of tongue there. The help of that we take out this crucible maybe from the furnace and then fix on the handle or the crucible holder. So crucible or the ladle holder, this crucible, the same thing is also you can call is as a ladle. Ladle and crucible are the similar kind of a thing where the molten metal actually stored. Okay, so then you can see here these are the handles or the holders where the crucible is kept, and then the molten metal is poured into the mold cavity. So here you can see, so here within the crucible you can see the charge is kept. Charge means the scrap metals which we want to melt. See, with the help of crucible tongue it is put within the furnace. With the help of tongue the crucible is taken out from the furnace. Then it is placed within the crucible holder or the crucible handle, and then it is locked. Okay, and finally after removing the slags, the molten metal is poured into the mold cavity. Now coming to the furnaces, and there are different kinds of furnaces, foundry furnaces possible. Broadly they can be categorized into four types: cupola furnace, crucible furnace, electric arc furnace, and induction furnace. Now first we'll see one by one the cupola furnace, and in the picture you can see this one is the cupola furnace, this one is the cupola furnace, and in the cupola furnace what happens, you see that initially here it is the charging door through which basically uh, the coke, which is basically the carbon coke, and the metal is basically the iron ore and some flux like limestone basically, which is uh, given. So this mixture is basically what is the charge material here in case of a cupola. So within cupola what happens, basically um, air is supplied from the bottom, air is supplied from the bottom. Okay, so air is blasted from the bottom and air goes in the other direction and the charge moves in the downward direction. So you have carbon, you have oxygen, you have iron oxide, that means which is the iron ore. Okay, so they react, and because of the chemical reaction, a huge temperature is created, and because of that huge temperature, and the iron oxide actually converted into iron, and at that high temperature that iron melts. Okay, and that melted iron actually comes here, and from here it is taken out. Okay, so in this way the molten metal is collected here, and this is what is the how cupola works, and this is mainly used to create the cast iron, melted cast iron. We use cupola. Next you see the crucible furnace. In the crucible furnace, this one is the crucible furnace. This one is the crucible furnace. In the crucible furnace, here you can see this is what is the crucible. And within the crucible, definitely the charge is there. Charge means, you know, the scrap metal that we want to melt. Scrap is there. And outside here, basically, as a fuel, it may be coal or it may be some gaseous fuel, whatever that may be there. And with the help of air, and we just, with the help of a burner, we create combustion outside the crucible. So here, huge heat is generated. And that energy, the heat energy, actually transferred through the crucible material. So crucible material should be made of highly thermally conductive material. They are generally made of uh, graphite or silicon carbide, this kind of a material. Okay, so they are very hard material. At the same, the basic thing, the for the crucible material requirement is the very high temperature melting point. Okay, so their melting point of the crucible material should be very high, and they should be thermally conductive, highly thermally conductive. So that is why the outside high temperature or the outside source of heat can easily transferred through the crucible into the charge material. Okay, so this is the way finally the charge material melted down, and that can be taken out. So this is what is the crucible furnace. Now coming to the electric arc furnace. In the electric arc furnace, as you can see, this is the picture of the electric arc furnace, where you can see the charge material is kept here. Here is your charge material which is kept here, and the electrodes, these are the electrodes, and high voltage. So you need the electrical energy source. So high voltage is created between these electrodes and the charge material. Okay, so if you create high voltage between this electrode material and the charge, then what happens? Basically, arc is created, and that arc ultimately creates the melt the, so high temperature is generated, and finally the metal here is melted. Okay, so in this way we get the molten metal. So this is basically how this kind of electric arc furnace works. Now finally is the induction furnace. In the induction furnace, uh, you see that these are the constructions of the induction furnace, both of these construction. So in induction furnace, actually outside there is copper coil there through which the AC current is flowing. And since the AC current is outside this furnace, here you can see these are refractory lining. These are refractory lining. Refractory lining means you know that they can resist very high temperature, maybe some kind of a refractory bricks or something. And inside that you have the crucible, maybe this crucible, just you have seen the crucible, and in that crucible some charge material is there. Some charge material is there, charge is there, maybe aluminum or some whatever you want to melt. Now what happens actually, so outside the current is flowing, that is AC current, and because of that uh, magnetic field is continuously changing since it is AC. So since the magnetic field is continuously changing, so that is why inside the charge material which is thermally conducting, that will create an electric current through that. Okay, so that is what is because of the electromagnetic induction, current will flow through the charge material. Okay, and then because of the resistance of those charge material, since the current is flowing, this current is called the eddy current, which generates because of electromagnetic induction. And when this current is flowing and this charge material itself having some resistance, electrical resistances, and that is why what happens, the because of the Joule heating, basically this molten material is this charge material is going to melt. So heat source is basically the Joule heating because of the induced current within the charge material. And in this case, there is no direct connection between these electric uh, power lines around the around this furnace and the charge material. And in this case, you observe that it is not that the crucible should be required to be very highly thermal conductive. No, that is not required, because heat is not actually coming from the outside to the inside. It is actually generated inside the crucible because of the electromagnetic induction. Okay, so these are the certain things that you should keep in mind, that there is a difference between the crucible that is used within the crucible furnace and in the induction furnace. So in our lab, and the furnace that is there, which is the induction type of furnace. Okay. Next, we'll see the defects in casting, and there are different kinds of defects that is produced in casting. As you can see, some of the names here. So let us try to understand through a 3D visualization of each of the defects and try to know that what might be the reason of that through this YouTube video. So
for misrun. Job misrun. This is due to lack of fluidity of molten metal. The molten metal solidified before it fills the cavity. This leads to incomplete casting. Cold shut. Let us see an example for cold shut. Workpiece. Cold shut. Cold shut is a V depression that occurs in the surface of flat casting. It results due to the sand expansion caused by the heat of the metal. Hot tear. Let us see an example of hot tear. Job. Hot tear. Hot tear is a crack in the casting caused by high residual stresses. Flash. Let us see an example for flash. Cavity. Die. Gap between two dies. A thin web of metal on a casting which occurs at parting line is called a flash. This flash is occurred due to gap between two dies. Shift or mismatch. Let us see an example for mismatch. Job. Mismatch. Mismatch is a defect caused by a sidewise displacement of the mold hoop relative to the drag, which result in double the cast product at the parting line. Shrinkage. Let us see an example for shrinkage. Job. Shrinkage. Shrinkage is a depression or an internal void in a casting that results from the volume contraction during solidification of molten metal. Blow defect. Let us see an example for blow defect. Casting. Blow. Blow is relatively large cavity produced by gases which displace molten metal from the cavity. Drop defect. Let us see an example for drop defect. Job. Drop. Drop in a mold is an irregular shape projection on the cope surface of a casting. Scab defect. Let us see an example for scab. Job. Scab. Penetration. Let us see an example for penetration. Job. Penetration. Penetration occurs when the molten metal flows between the sand particles in the mold. Warpage. Let us see an example for warpage. Part. Warpage. Warpage is an undesirable deformation in a casting that occur during or after solidification. Blowholes defect. Let us see an example for blowholes. Job. Blowholes. Small holes below the surface of casting is caused by entrapped bubbles of gases. Porosity. Let us see an example for porosity. Job. Porosity. Porosity is a small holes on the surface of casting. This is due to gas dissolved in the alloy. Pinhole. Let us see an example for pinhole. Part. Pinholes. Pinholes are small gas holes either at the surface or just below the part surface.
So you have seen the different kinds of casting defects. So thank you.